I'd like to talk to you very quickly about why Black Lives matters to gay people, and then I'd like to give you two very pertinent examples. Right now in our country, since we could chart it through just the presidency of Barack Obama, we've seen a rise in hate crimes, violence against gay people, violence against Black people. Many people will just call it Mississippi backlash, the backlash from the expansion of rights of these peoples. And it's gone very quickly. We talk about the number of rights that I, as a citizen, have gained under just President Obama's presidency. It's expansive. The example I wanted to give is the first one, which is what we call the Matthew Shepard Law, or what's properly called the James Byrd and Matthew Shepard Hate Crimes, Prevention Act, that was signed into law by President Barack Obama in 2009. Now, expands the existing hate crimes law that we had in the United States to include people of different sexual gendered identities and perceived presentations of what their gender identity or sexual preference is. And so it protects us. It says that you can't that if you commit violence against us, it's one thing. Already that's one thing as a citizen. If you target us because of who we are, then you will be punished for who you are, and that's a hater. And so that law is just one example of how I've gained so much as a citizen, a private citizen, in this case as a gay citizen, under President Barack Obama. But B, the fact that who were James Byrd and Matthew Shepard. So what's interesting is that this was 2009 when the act was signed into law. In 1998, in June, Mr. James Byrd was a victim of a racist hate crime by openly racist, tattooed, people who we like to say are just out there, but their ideas seem to circulate in the mainstream. He was the one who was, drugged behind the truck in Texas for 3 miles, had his arm and head severed, and, pissed on, mutilated, humiliated, all that stuff. And then something similar happened, and that was in June. And in October, something similar, 1998, happened to Matthew Shepard. And he was a young man in Laramie, Wyoming, who had been a victim of a gay hate crime. He was targeted because they thought he was gay, and he was gay. And they mutilated him. Just a hate crime. And so 10 years later, we saw our president finally acknowledge what hate does to us in the society by enacting this collective law, and strengthened by our conviction that the James Byrds and the Matthew Shepards won't happen in this world anymore, and certainly it should not take their deaths for us to pay attention to the hate that circulates already around us and allows for these lives not to matter. Now, that's the first example I wanted to give you of why you see this convergence between gay lives and Black lives, just embedded in this law. And because they're embedded in this law together, because there's also the understanding that hate is hate, and hate follows a very similar pattern, and as must justice, as must our commitment to peace and building a multicultural, pluralistic society that values all of its citizens. And by values, I don't just mean tolerates, but I mean genuinely says that everybody has an inherent value for our societies. And so the other instance is a more positive one. The hate crimes ordinance that had passed locally in my city, I would say, half a decade earlier than the incidences that happened with Matthew Shepard. There had been gay activists, who said that we need to band together and build solidarity in this community. And what they did was very actively lend their bodies, voices, votes to movements around them, justice movements all throughout the city. So that meant when there were Black activists standing up for Black Lives Mattered, they went and stood with them. They didn't say, "What do you have to do for me?" They went and stood with them. Now, implicit in all of this, and this is the whole point of this whole thing, is that the there are gay people who are black, and there are black people who are gay. There are gay people who believe in racial justice, no matter what their race is, and there are people of color who believe in justice for all people, including gay people, no matter what their faith or background is. And so we know that there are people whose mindsets are intersectional and can cross these different identities, not least of which because there are individuals like me who is a black person and is a gay person and does come from a working class background, does now live in a middle class environment, that crossing all these lines just in my own lifetime, that one law, the James Byrd and Matthew Shepard hate crimes prevention law, does embody the notion that we are as Americans are not just intersectional, that we you can be a sexual minority and a gendered minority, a religious minority. I'm also a religious minority. You could be, marginalized by your class, and all these different ways that our implicit otherness works to marginalize one another. Our implicit otherness, or implicitly saying that there's something not normal, not mainstream about you, that it provides the path for injustice. And so standing on the side of justice is just being consistent. And so when I see gay people somewhat confused and, don't gay lives matter too? Of course gay lives matter. But right now we're talking about this. Right now we need you as gay people to stand up, to stand with Black Lives Matters, to stand with those people who are suggesting that justice, and in this instance we're calling out the injustices that are particularly committed against Black bodies. And so to assert that Black Lives Matters is in no way to negate that women's lives don't matter, that white people's lives don't matter, that the lives of the 1% don't matter, and certainly that gay lives don't matter. But we're saying right now, let's build solidarity around this issue. And very quickly you will see the intersections, because you will see all kind of Black queer people whose lives become even more, whose voices also become even more important and more essential in those movements, because we're able to articulate why we should be in these spaces together. And there are no two better examples of this that I can point out than James Baldwin and Bayard Rustin. Peace out.